Interested in learning about wine, but not sure where to start? You're in the right place. Welcome to the Cork and Fizz Guide to Wine podcast. I'm your host, Haley Bowman, and I'm so glad you're here. I'm a wine enthusiast turned wine educator and founder of the Seattle-based wine tasting business, Cork and Fizz. It is my goal to build your confidence in wine by making it approachable and lots of fun. You can expect to learn everything from how to describe your favorite wine to what to pair with dinner tonight, and so much more. Whether you're a casual wine sipper or a total cork dork like myself, this podcast is for you. So grab yourself a glass and let's dive in. Welcome back to the Cork and Fizz Guide to Wine podcast. Today, you'll be listening to part 2 of my interview with Nikki Dickerson. If you haven't heard part 1, I highly recommend starting there. You can pause this episode, go listen to that, and then come back to this one. As a reminder, Nikki is an international wine marketer turned vigneron, writer, and, in her words, if all goes well, soon to be wine importer, and she lives between the US and Sardinia, Italy. She fell in love with wine after a life-changing trip to France in 2018, left her corporate PR job, and ended up chasing harvests across California, Australia, Burgundy, and beyond. Along the way, she met her husband, an Italian winemaker, and together they planted their first vineyards in Sardinia, laying the foundation for their dream winery. Now, through her blog, Sip with Nick, she shares her wine-soaked adventures from discovering hidden gem bottles to navigating the wild world of winemaking and wine imports. In this episode, we'll talk more about her incredible blog, also called a Substack, full of approachable wine information, Nick's love for unique and lesser-known wine varieties, that new wine import business that she's creating, plus during the speed round, you will discover what wine myth bugs Nikki the most. All right, without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so beyond starting a winery, you also have a Substack, Sip with Nick. So forgive me for a second. I feel like I'm like such a millennial here. What exactly is a Substack?
I'm a millennial too.
I feel like I'm like pretending I'm like more of an older millennial in these cases, and it's not like I'm actually a young millennial, but I just feel old whenever these things come up, and I'm like, I don't know what that is.
I don't know what it is. I would describe it as a combination of a newsletter and a blog, because really Substack was, even if you have your own website and you wanted to have a newsletter, you could use Substack for that. It's kind of like an all-in-one service platform.
Okay, and so newsletter, blog.
Yeah. Your blogs basically go onto a website on Substack.
Cool.
So they're all there like you, as if you had a blog, but then they're distributed weekly when you write them to your subscribers.
Cool. Okay, nice. What kind of information could folks find on your Substack?
Oh, lots of things. I have a lot of food and wine guides. I have a lot of stories on rare varieties because I am obviously obsessed with varieties that nobody else knows about.
No, that's definitely a topic. I think that's how I discovered you first. And I was like, this person is so cool. So we're definitely going to talk about that.
So you can find a lot of that type of content there. I mean, I like to explore wines from all over the world. I do some educational content where it's like, let's look at Piemonte, or let's look at the Southern Rhone, or travel guides to, specific regions. But I really like kind of exploring more off the beaten path parts of the wine world, whether that's grape varieties or producers that I've discovered and I've become obsessed with. I want to start doing more winemaker interviews. There's a free version and a paid version, which are usually pretty similar offerings, except that the paid version, you get access to a little bit more of the in-depth content, more Blue Zone recipes that I've been stealing from my Sardinian mother-in-law. I do a lot of like recipes as well, food and wine pairings. And then the paid version, I would like to make it more interactive, where my subscribers will eventually become club members and can also help give insights as we're growing the winery into names or branding or whatever. So I want to get my subscribers involved that way, and then eventually host member trips. And then my paid subscribers will also have, discounts and first access to wines that I bring in or wines that we make at the winery eventually.
Absolutely. No, that's great. And so I definitely wanted to hit on that because I know you have a special offer for podcast listeners if they'd like to become. So it's great to like go check out the Substack. You can check it out for free and just, see and read some of this. But to continue to support you and to get all of those benefits, they can become a paid subscriber and you have a 30% discount, right? And I'm going to put it in the show notes so folks there's a direct link that you can click that'll take you to getting that discount. So you can, I love the idea of, and I'm guessing you talk about the winery as well on the
Oh yeah, I
Substack
didn't even
and
say that. Exactly.
following that story as well.
Exactly. Yeah. There's going to be a lot more of that this year because I have shared things about, planting the vineyard and whatnot, but now that we're really going to start beginning into the thick of like actually making wine, there will be a lot more to share. And my husband is actually leaving next week to go back and do the pruning because the growing season is about to start. So we will be sharing updates there. We also in Sardinia, I did not mention this, have donkeys and goats. So you'll get to see how cute they are. And I mean, I really try to just share about when I'm there, especially a little behind the scenes look at life in Sardinia in general, because most people won't get to experience that. So we'd like to host trips there eventually for food and wine.
Fun. I love it. Just a quick reminder, if you are not on my mailing list yet, what are you waiting for? I would love for you to join. When you do, you'll get a free shopping guide that has 15 of my favorite wines under $15. Head to corkandfizz.com, scroll down to the bottom, and there'll be a little section where you can join the mailing list. I send out a weekly newsletter filled with wine tips, recommendations, special offers, and so much more. Now, let's get back to the show. Okay. So now I've followed you on Instagram for many years. I feel like that's how I first connected with you. And like I said, one of the first things I've noticed is that you talked a lot about hidden gems, lesser known wine varietals. Like I'd always be going to your page when I'm like, I need something new to try. What should like what is there? And I'm like, Nikki has something. What inspired you to kind of go these unique varietals? Was it like Sardinia or did it start before that?
I think I honestly was always interested in kind of the lesser known varieties, but it was Sardinia that like sparked and set the spark or whatever. You know what I'm trying to say. So when I went to Sardinia and I started trying like Semidano, Nuragus, like all these, I'm like, this is insane. And then you go look at other countries, especially like Greece or Croatia, a lot of countries that have been making wine for millennia, and you find even more to discover. So for me, that is like one of the coolest parts about the world of wine. And I could never understand, especially from a family with a dad who like only drinks Cabernet Sauvignon. I'm like, I mean, I get it. At least you're drinking wine. It makes me happy. But like, there's so much out there to explore and discover. And for me, that was like the most exciting and coolest thing that I could have ever discovered. And I felt like I just wanted to share that with people. And I also feel like the producers that are doing all of this hard work to keep these varieties thriving and alive through all of the market shifts and, dynamics in the wine industry, people deserve to try their wines, or they deserve to have their wines like discovered. So
no, I love it. I'm definitely with you. I think that's fun. I also compare it to like the person who like, no matter what restaurant they go to, they order like a cheeseburger or something. Like they always order the same.
Yeah, that's so true. That's such a good analogy.
And I'm just like, I could never do that. Like, I feel like whenever I look at a menu, I'm always like, ooh, what new thing should I try? Like, this will be fun. And I feel like that's what I want to do with wine too.
I feel the same. So, I mean, I'm glad I'm not the only one. And it's nice to thank you for your kind words. That was nice to hear.
Oh, of course. And you mentioned a couple lesser known varieties in Sardinia. And maybe this is kind of one of those like picking your favorite kids questions. But what are like, if I were to ask you like 3 grape varieties that are like lesser known kind of hidden gems that you think should be more well known from Sardinia?
Oh, it's so hard because there's so many. You're right. It is like picking my favorite kids.
To be fair, they don't have to be your absolute favorite. It's purely just 3 out of the group of 20 that you have.
I know. I think I've already mentioned a couple of them. I think Bovale is, you'll hear it in Sardinia, it's called Muristelu or Muristedu, depending on where you are. But Bovale is obviously much easier to understand and pronounce probably for most people. But that is like a killer red. I mean, it's age worthy. You can have drink now styles, but it's super age worthy. It's definitely more, if you are a Cabernet Sauvignon lover, I would try that because it's bolder tannins, it does have high acidity, like incredible concentration of flavors. It's really fantastic. You'll find my favorites that I've had are from the Mandrolizai area, which is where they make it with the other two varieties as a blend, but there are a lot of single varietal examples there that are definitely worth checking out. What else? I mean, okay, I love Vernaccia, but we'll put that aside. Let's say something I haven't said yet. I personally really like Torbato, which is a variety that they say came from Spain because Sardinia has been conquered by like a lot of different cultures throughout history. And the Spaniards were one of them. And supposedly they brought that variety to Sardinia. They make some, what is the winery called? I think my favorite is Parpinello is the winery. And you actually might be able to get this one in America, though don't quote me on that. They make a sparkling Torbato that is like so good. I mean, it's aromatic. If I'm remembering it correctly, it does have some like floral qualities, super high acidity, super fresh, but still complex. So I love that one. What's another white? I guess Semidano is a really good white wine other than Vermentino. That would be worth checking out. It is harder to find like
Sure.
high quality. A lot of them are kind of like, people make it to make it, but they don't put the love and effort
Right.
behind it that it needs. But fresh again, but more savory on the palate, I would say,
Okay.
and fruity.
Okay. So you've talked about, being able to get these wines in the US. You are hoping to become a wine importer. What inspired this and what kind of wines do you hope to import? This podcast is sponsored by VoChill. When you're enjoying a glass of wine, temperature matters. And you don't need to be a wine expert to know this. You know this the minute you realize you forgot to put the bottle of wine in the fridge, and now you're stuck with lukewarm Sauvignon Blanc that is the opposite of refreshing. You know adding ice cubes will just water the wine down, but it seems like it's your only option. Not anymore. I want to introduce you to one of my favorite wine gadgets, VoChill. This gadget is as simple as it is elegant. It will keep wine perfectly chilled in your own wine glass. No more clunky metal or plastic tumblers or ice in your wine. While this gadget is an absolute must during the summer months, I don't enjoy wine without it from June to September. It's also incredibly useful for those days when you're craving a glass of white or rosé, but you don't want to wait for the bottle to chill in the fridge. VoChill offers a stemmed and stemless chiller in multiple colors, so you're bound to find one that's perfect for you. They also make the perfect gift. I should know, I got one for my mom at Christmas a couple years ago, and she loves it. Head to vochill.com, that's VOCHILL.com, to get your perfect wine chiller, and don't forget to use code CORKANDFIZZ for 15% off your order. This podcast is sponsored by the Cork Crew Virtual Wine Club. Interested in trying new wines, but not sure where to start? Or maybe you've been listening to this podcast for a while and you love the idea of tasting wine live with me. If that's you, come join my Cork Crew Virtual Wine Club, and you'll get to sip wine with me twice a month while I help you find new favorite wines. The Cork Crew is not your ordinary wine club. This is a community of people who are passionate about exploring new flavors, learning about different wine styles, and having fun along the way. And the best part about this club, purchasing the wine is completely optional. Plus, all events are recorded, and you have access to the full library of recordings as a Cork Crew member, so you can always catch up if you can't make it live. Oh, and did I mention it's virtual, which means you get to do all of this from the comfort of your sofa in your PJs. No need to worry about driving in crappy traffic, finding a designated driver, or spending an arm and a leg on a taxi. Want to give it a try without the commitment? You're in luck. Right now, I'm offering a free class pass to anybody who wants to try out the Cork Crew Virtual Wine Tasting Club. With this pass, you'll be able to join a Cork Crew event of your choosing. No strings attached. I don't need your credit card. I don't need you to sign up for anything. You'll be my guest. Simply head to corkandfizz.com/free class pass to get your class pass and be one step closer to becoming a member of the best wine tasting club around, the Cork Crew. I can't wait to see you there. Now let's get back to the show.
I think this whole journey that we've been talking about is what inspired it. Honestly, it's funny because when I was first working in Paso, I remember going to Paso used to be, I don't know, I don't live there anymore, but when I went there, it was not like trying to be Napa. It was much more like a blossoming region. And like you could go to wine tasting everywhere for free. It was a total different, that doesn't exist anymore. But the community there, I'm sure, is still the same. And they used to have, all wineries would have like industry parties. And I remember I met a woman that had her own, I can't remember her name, which is kind of sad, but she had her own import company. She had her own wine portfolio, small little import company. And that was the first thing that kind of like piqued my interest. Like, oh, well, I could do that. Because I had just started getting into the wine industry. I'm like, what do I actually want to
Right.
do here? So I was just kind of like planted the seed. And then once we started traveling all over and I went to Sardinia and I was discovering all of these wines that we really have like a minuscule fraction of in America. I think I really want to bring wines like this to America. And what I want to focus on, obviously, was everything that we've talked about, wines that aren't here yet, that are more off the beaten path, biodynamic or regenerative, organic agriculture, made with the planet in mind, but things that you can't buy now in America, things
Yeah.
that aren't on like wine shelves or, whatever. Where do people shop for wine? Wine.com or Total Wine. I mean, Total Wine does have a good wine selection. I do like shopping there, but just things that you can't really find here, and trying to make it so that you have a close connection with the producer who made it. Because that's the other thing for wine for me, is the stories behind the bottles.
Yes.
There's always someone super interesting and cool and passionate that has their own crazy story that made this like this living thing for you. It's so that's what I love about wine, and that's what I want to bring. I would love to do a wine club. I don't know that I'll do like, maybe to start a little bit of traditional in the sense working with distributors or selling, to restaurants and whatnot. But eventually I want to have a wine club with membership and an online, like an e-commerce store where you can only get the wines there. That would be my goal. And then do, member trips and events and
Yeah.
whatnot.
And are you seeing this going beyond Sardinia, beyond just your own winery?
Yeah, definitely. I think we'll probably start with like Italy, like Sardinia, of
Yeah.
course, and then expand into Italy. But I do want to go all over. My family is Greek, so I want to go into Greece.
There's
And Greek,
so many Greek wines that we do not have here.
it's crazy the amount of diversity that they have there, and even in Cyprus too. So that's going to be hopefully, if not this year, next year, where I want to go exploring wine wise. I also lately have been super obsessed with Austrian wines.
Ooh, okay,
Like
yes.
Gruner Veltliner is the big one there, but they also have so many other unique varieties. We went to, do you know what the slow food Presidio is? It's like
Oh, yes. Yeah, we actually had somebody, I think in my cork crew, talked a little bit about, talked about the slow wine
yeah,
idea, which I think is connected to
the
the
same.
slow food. Yeah.
Exactly. So last year we went in Bologna to the Slow Wine Fair Expo, and we went to the Austria section. It's kind of like Vin Italy, but they had some wines from other countries. It was mostly different regions of Italy though. But when we went and tasted the wines in Austria, I was blown away. Like quality, super high quality, especially for the price point, and just great, complex, elegant, beautiful wine. So I'm really excited about Austria personally right now. I feel like there's already like a lot of France and a lot of Spain and a lot of Italy, but that's kind of the
Probably
big
like the
wine
main
industry.
ones too, right? Like when you think
Right.
of Italy, like you have like the specific things. There's not like, I was working on my Italy 101 notes that technically anybody listening to this has already heard that podcast because it was before this. But there are like 500 plus like indigenous varieties in Italy. And there's no way we've gotten even like a fraction of those over, imported here to the US.
No, definitely not. And we went to Sicily last year, which was awesome. But for me, like Piemonte, that region, like everyone knows it for Barolo and Barbaresco, even Barbera, but like they have so many or I won't say unknown, but like indigenous, lesser known varieties there that we Americans don't have as much access to. So that'll probably be like a soon to be
Yeah.
stop.
Definitely. No, I love it. I'll definitely be keeping an eye out. I feel like that I'm going to be one of the first subscribers. That's a wine club I want to be a part of because, yeah, trying new ones is exactly what I want to do. So before we get to our last speed round, I just want to ask, like, you have a lot going on. What's your kind of like, I guess it's not really a question. That was a statement. You have a lot going on. The question that follows this is that if you kind of pictured yourself 10 years from now, where do you see yourself? What do you see yourself doing? What have you done? What does that kind of like image look like to you?
Waking up and like going out and I'm working in our vineyards, probably in Sardinia.
Yes.
Hopefully, I would love to do if it's around harvest or not, have people come help for harvest, but do, bigger tastings and bigger events where we host people at our winery, but we can also take you to other Sardinian wineries or regions. The wine industry there is very close-knit community, just like Sardinia in general. So I think there was a lot of opportunity to do sort of more collaborative tastings and events and get more people interested in Sardinian wine. I would have loved to already be well into the wine club and imports where I have thousands and thousands of wine club members and we're taking them on trips throughout Europe, at least like every quarter that's a big goal, but that would be so fun for me. And I really want to get into more writing. Like I would love to write, I don't know if I'd call it a memoir, but a book about Marco, my story with Marco, and then incorporate, recipes from our lives with wine pairings. I would love to do a book specifically on Sardinian wine because there are some available in Italian, but if you've done your wine studies as like a sommelier and WSET, perhaps the Wine Spirits Education Trust, there's nothing about Sardinia in that book. Like they get left out of so many major wine educational books or just wine publications in general. So I would love to help kind of start putting Sardinia on the map.
Yay. Oh my gosh, that all sounds so fun. And I love all the ideas you have and look forward to seeing all of those things happen.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. We have the last little speed round. I call it a speed round just because like some of these questions are like you could have multiple answers or you could spend too much time thinking about it. So it's meant to be like first thing that pops into your head.
That comes to your head.
Yeah, exactly. The first question is your favorite wine at the moment.
My favorite wine at the moment. I have been really loving Gruner Veltliner from Austria.
Okay.
Lately.
Yep.
Like pretty obsessed with it.
You can never go wrong. It's just always good.
It is. It really is.
Okay. How about a go-to bottle of wine that you bring to like a dinner party or that you share with friends that are not like all winos? So they're kind of like a mix of wine drinkers.
I would say I love to bring any like Nebbiolo. It doesn't necessarily have to be Barolo, but even like a Langhe Nebbiolo would be fantastic. But that's like one of my personal favorite grapes. So I'm all about that. And also Camonel, gotta represent. I usually would bring, if I'm in Italy or we're in Europe, like that's usually what I try to bring.
Absolutely. Okay. How about favorite wine region that you've ever visited beyond Sardinia? We're going to move beyond Sardinia because I know that's the true answer.
No. I think I would have to say Piemonte in Italy. Piedmont is so pretty. I would go back there every year if I could. I loved it.
Okay, now on the flip side, a wine region you'd like to visit that you have not been to before.
Oh, that's so hard. I really want to go to South Africa and try wine there. I really want to go to like Stellenbosch, that area, the Swartland, whatever. I would love to go experience South African wine. Oh, and the Mosel has been on my list in Germany for forever. And
somebody just shared that like on Instagram. It was either this year or last year, and the pictures were just like
unreal. I know.
Yeah.
And I love Riesling. And I think like if to go there and experience Riesling and learn from the masters would be a great experience. So maybe I'll make that one happen this year.
Okay. All right. How about like a favorite, like a go-to wine and food pairing? Something that like if you're wanting like either a snack or a good dinner and a good wine to put with it.
If I'm in Sardinia, my favorite pairing is spaghetti with artichokes and botarga, which is like a cured fish roe that they grate. They grate it onto pasta. It's like salty and tastes like the ocean with vernaccia di Oristano.
Okay.
But if I'm at home, I mean, I think any bubbles, ideally grower champagne with a fried chicken or popcorn, either or would be my like easier accessible pairing.
I like that. I like the both combo. Okay. Now, if you were given $1,000 to spend on wine, what wine?
Only Haley.
I know, right? We're gonna picture this world. Someone just found you on the street and gave you $1,000. But you got to spend this on wine. Obviously, you can't just like list everything, but I kind of just like the idea of like what would you immediately go to that you would want to spend or what would you want to buy?
I think my top, I'll give you three. I would want like some really good grower champagne or, champagne in general, but not the bigger houses. Like I love Jean-Paul Morel. He's in Verzenay. That's my favorite champagne. I'd buy a bunch of that because it's great and he's awesome. Probably like Barolo because let's be honest, That would be what I'd get really expensive
Yeah.
aged Barolo, and then maybe some Burgundy, but you could only get like one bottle of Burgundy with $1,000, like good. So I'd probably skip.
I love it. Okay. All right. Last question. What is the one wine myth or thing, like marketing false thing that people say about wine that bugs you the most?
I think like the first thing that comes to mind, I don't know if it's a marketing thing, but the thing that bugs me the most is like the concept that people think wine is intimidating or that people are intimidated by wine. I'm like, that drives me crazy because wine is so fun and the people in the wine industry are so inviting and welcoming and are just waiting for you to ask them a million questions. There's nothing to be intimidated about. You don't need to know every single thing. You just need to taste more wine and decide what you like and drink what you like. And that's it. And there's a ton of wines for you to discover. So there's definitely something out there for your palate. And I would love if people in general who aren't into wine just had a little more curiosity. Like, just be curious. Don't be intimidated. Just be curious and enjoy
and know
the
too that
process.
like the thing I always like to like say is that like if somebody does act pretentious about the wine or you're talking to someone and they make you feel bad about knowing it, like that's their problem, not yours. And they are the minority. Like you said, like most wine people literally ask them a question about wine and they will just like they'll want to tell you all about it and like ask them about their wine. And half the time when you're at a tasting, they'll end up pouring like 5 other wines because they're just excited to share it with you.
100%. You said it perfectly. I feel exactly the same way. The snobs and the a-holes are definitely the minority. So
exactly.
let them go about their business.
Yeah. Exactly. Let them go buy the highest priced red wine on the list that they can because they want to show it off when really there was another really exciting one they totally missed. But
definitely.
No, I totally agree. All right. Well, we've come to the end. Thank you so much, Nikki, for sharing about Sardinia and about your journey. And I know many of the listeners, just like myself, will be following you and very excited to see what you do next.
Thank you so much. Stay tuned on Sip with Nick because even all of the new winery things, I think we have a name picked out, but we're going to want some votes and you'll be able to know more about our winery there as well. So stay tuned there and more to come. And thank you so much for having me. This was super fun.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I'll make sure I highlight in the outro as well. But for folks, check the show notes for Nikki's Instagram, her Substack. I'll have all of the links there for you to come find her.
Awesome.
All right, wonderful. Well, thank you, Nikki. Have a great rest of your evening. And yeah, look forward to hearing more about Sardinia from you in the future.
Thank you so much, Haley. Have a good one.
Okay, how wonderful was that? Isn't like Nikki amazing? I can't wait to see all of the things that she does. If you'd like to learn more about Nikki's winery and just more about wine in general from her, be sure to go follow her on Instagram. It is at Sip with Nick. Nick is with a K at the end. And check out her Substack at sipwithnick.substack.com. There is a free version of the Substack that you can go check out. And remember, a Substack is very similar to a blog, but you also get emailed the articles directly to your inbox. You can also become a paid subscriber. And with that paid subscription, you will get bonus content, including all of her food and wine guides, plus access to exclusive content like pairing recipes that are like from her Sardinian mother-in-law, off the beaten path wine finds, and behind the scenes look at her starting her winery in Sardinia. Plus, once that winery gets going, you're going to be getting exclusive discounts on all of the imported wines and that wine club from her new company, early access to the first releases from the Sardinian winery, opportunities to help shape the winery. She wants your opinion on these things. And of course, first dibs on the winery experiences when they open. I don't know about you, but as she was describing Sardinia and these amazing experiences, I am definitely going to be one of the first people on the list when she starts offering those. Nikki is offering 30% off an annual subscription. So if you want to get on that Substack now and support her dreams and all these amazing things she's doing, you can go to sipwithnick.substack.com/corkandfizz. I will put this link in the show notes for you as well. As always, if you love this episode, just like I did clearly, please rate it, leave a review if you haven't yet. You can also share it on social media or share it with a wine lover in your life that you think would enjoy it. In next week's episode, we'll continue our Italian wine mini-series with an epiode dedicated to all the amazing Sangiovese in Italy. and making sense of all of the different names that it goes by. Thanks again for listening. And if you want to learn more about wine, maybe even try some Sardinian wines, I think we're going to have a Sardinian theme coming up here. Be sure to come join us at the Cork Crew, my virtual wine tasting club. To sign up, you can go to thecorkcrew.com to learn more and use code WINE101 to get your first month free. Cheers!